All right, now we're going to look at regions. We spend a whole few minutes on regions because they're important. So regions are just areas in the world that have unifying shared characteristics or some kind of patterns of activity. So they have typically a shared culture, like the South has sweet tea, country music with banjos and fiddles, as well as Southern architecture, like with the columns for one. There's a lot of other parts of Southern culture. The accent, for one. When you go up north to New England, people typically don't have a Southern accent. That's part of the Southern region. That's what unifies the region. Okay, so let's look at some different regions throughout the world. I'll try to guess where these regions are located, what these regions are. These are all unifying common characteristics throughout the region. So what region of the world is this? This is the Nordic region, which is composed of Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, those very cold northern states of Europe. So yeah, it's really nice there. I really want to go there. I mean, look how beautiful this is. It looks so lovely. All right, here's another region. Here's a hint. Regions can be composed of multiple countries, or regions can be within a country. They can be smaller than a country. So as a hint, this one's smaller than a country. So what region of the world is this? This is Tuscany, which is a region of Italy. I've been there. It's really, really nice, and they have good bread. All right, here's another one. You can probably tell, okay, this is in Asia. What region of Asia is this? This is East Asia, which has Japan, China, the Korean Peninsula, Mongolia, as well as some other areas of Asia as well. Okay, here's another one. This is Sub-Saharan Africa. This one's probably a little harder for you to guess. Sub-Saharan Africa is a term you're going to hear throughout this course. What does Sub-Saharan Africa mean? Well, the prefix sub means below. So it means below the Sahara, below the desert. So the desert is that gray part of the map here. And then the blue is below that. Sub-Saharan. And yeah, it's not very developed. They do have some cities. There's a lot of farming going on, a lot of rural development. The Serengeti is also located there. That's what that big picture is. So yeah, those all unify and are common characteristics throughout Sub-Saharan Africa. And you could get more specific than this. There are regions within Sub-Saharan Africa, but these are common characteristics that can be found throughout Sub-Saharan Africa. All right, here's another one outside of Africa, if you didn't notice. These are really nice pictures, by the way. I really like the picture in the bottom right. I just like the colors. I think it looks cool. So yeah, this is the Caribbean. The Caribbean, don't get mad at me. And, very tropical, a lot of tourism. They have a lot of coastal cities. You can see here as you get further inland towards the mountains, there's less development. That's typically how it works with cities. A lot of tourism, a lot of bright colors to attract consumers. And it has money from tourism as well. So it looks really nice and wealthy. All right, this is in a desert, obviously, so it's definitely not the Caribbean or the Nordic region or even East Asia. For one, some parts of East Asia has deserts, but it doesn't have Muslim architecture, so it's definitely not East Asia. What area in the world has Muslim architecture and desert? The Middle East. So yeah, this is the Middle East. The architecture does look nice. I will give them that. All right, so College Board gives us, for AP Human Geography, a list of world regions. And you need to know this map. You need to know which countries are in which region. So you need to know that Brazil is in Latin America, but Brazil is also big. You need to know where Australia is. You need to know that Central Africa is in the central area of Africa. And you hearing me say this probably makes it sound like common sense. But do you know where Micronesia, Polynesia, and the Melanesia is located? Maybe not. You should probably learn that first. Micronesia is on top, Polynesia is on the bottom. East Asia. Which countries are part of East Asia? Which countries are not part of East Asia? What about South Asia? Is Vietnam part of South Asia? No, it's part of Southeast Asia. So it's little things like that you have to learn. What's the difference between Western and Eastern Europe? Is the Netherlands in Western Europe, or is it in Eastern Europe? There's no Central Europe in this case. So when College Board on the AP exam, or on AP Classroom, or anywhere else for that matter, says Western Europe, you got to think France, Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, all the way, to Portugal as well. It also includes Finland and Denmark and Iceland. as well. So that's pretty important. Latin America, they don't have a Central America in this case. It's just Latin America. Some people will say that Central America is in one place, Latin America is in another place. No, in this course, from Mexico all the way down to Argentina is Latin America. Look at where Egypt is. It's in northern Africa here. It's not in the Middle East. If you look back at this slide, this map said that Egypt is part of the Middle East. College Board disagrees, and sometimes that happens. Regions are not the same from person to person in a lot of cases. So regions can be contested. They can vary depending on the perception of an individual or a government for that matter. So let's look at the three types of regions. So the first type is a formal region. These are the ones that are not up to debate. They're based on defined political boundaries. They are recognized globally, and they will not vary from person to person. They're typically formed by some legal document like a treaty, oftentimes drawn up after a war, because historically how you got land was through war or conquering it. So some examples are states like New Hampshire or Tasmania. Tasmania is a state in Australia. England is a formal region of the United Kingdom. We have property lines, official property lines, so where your house is. If you're in a planned community, or if you have certain land out in the country, or just anywhere for that matter, there are lines saying where your property starts and finishes. That's not up to debate. Those are legal documents here. Electoral districts are formal regions as well. And then regions about culture, like German-speaking regions of Switzerland. That's not up to debate, because you can't really say that people speak German in areas where they actually don't. And then physical geography is a formal region because it's where the physical geography is. It's not up to debate. You can't say the Everglades is in Georgia. There's no wetlands there. So the Everglades can't be in Georgia. And then you have the Amazon rainforest as another example. Valleys, the Grand Canyon, those are all formal regions as well. And then we have functional regions. Functional regions revolve around a function, also called a node. And they are a central hub. They're not often in the middle of the region, but they link the rest of the region together. So let's look at some examples. JFK Airport. The airport is the function. The rest of the region is composed of where the airplanes fly to, where they've come back from. That is the region. Port Royal, that's a port near Hilton Head in South Carolina. The port is the function, where the ships go and which ships go or where they come from. That's what links the region together. Radio reception areas, where the signal is transmitted from, the satellite or the tower. That's the function, the node. And then who can receive the signal is part of the region. If I'm in Oregon, I'm probably listening to a radio station in Oregon as well. If I go to Arkansas, I probably won't be able to hear it because I'm not in the region anymore. Now, another example is power grids and other utilities like water and sewage and what's another one? Gas. These are all linked to certain areas. You get local power, local gas, local sewage, and those are typically managed by facilities located near you. So that the region it's a local region for one. Is going to revolve around where that function is. For example, let's say there's a water treatment plant by your house. That is the hub. That's the function. And then the surrounding area is the region because they receive water that passes through the water treatment plant. A newspaper route. So the newspaper where it gets printed, that's where the function is. And then the route is the region of who gets the newspaper or not. All right, and then we have a vernacular region. Now, these are the regions that are up to debate. They can vary amongst different people. They can vary amongst organizations and businesses and also governments. They are up to interpretation, okay? So mental maps. If you haven't drawn a mental map before, you should. It's kind of fun. Draw one from your house to your school. That's an easy one. And just label different places on the route there. It's going to vary between person to person. If you get your mom or your sibling to draw the same type of map as well, it's going to look different because your perception of your local area is different from everyone else. You are unique. The South, the term the South. Where does the South start and end? Is Florida part of the South? Florida is the southernmost state, but is it part of the South? that will change from person to person. The Midwest. What is composed of the Midwest? Where does the Midwest start and end? It's the same deal with the South. It's up to interpretation. Silicon Valley is also the same way. The Rust Belt. What states are part of the Rust Belt? Some states that were formerly part of the Rust Belt may not be a part of it anymore because cities like Detroit have been manufacturing less and less. Latin America, we were talking about this earlier. Is Latin America from Mexico to Argentina, or is Latin America only South America? We also have the Middle East. Is Egypt a part of the Middle East or not? I don't know. What about Turkey? Is that part of the Middle East or not? Some people say that Israel shouldn't be a part of the Middle East because it's not a Muslim majority country. It just varies from person to person. The Outback in Australia. This is more of just a common folk term now. I'm not from Australia, but in America it's just a common folk term. Nobody's referring to a specific place. But I'm sure in Australia they are referring to a specific place, and that can vary from person to person. So let's do some practice here. So we're looking at physical geography first. So the Swiss Alps are mountains in Switzerland. They have glaciers and alpine vegetation as well as mountainous peaks. So they're very high. They reach elevations of up to 46,000 meters. So this is a formal region. The easiest way to interpret this is that we're looking at physical geography here. And physical geography, for the most part, is a formal region. It doesn't say that it's a function. It doesn't say that the agriculture revolves around the water that goes down the mountains. It doesn't say that at all. It just specifically talking about the mountain area, which is a formal region. It's not up to interpretation because the mountains are physical. You can measure where they start and end. All right, here's another one. It's talking about emergency service zones. They have various response agencies like police departments, ambulance services, fire systems also come from ESCs. They are agencies that share resources, and they respond effectively to emergencies within a zone. That's pretty important. We're talking about zones. So certain fire stations are going to respond to fires in certain areas because they don't want to travel too far away because they may not get there in time. They want to get there as efficiently as possible. So counties typically have multiple different fire stations, multiple different ambulance bays. Police departments, they may have one. If they're bigger, they're going to have multiple because they're going to have to respond to probably more crimes in different areas, but they're going to respond in different zones. So that's going to make this a functional region. That specific ambulance bay, that specific fire station and police department that has its own zone is the function. So that's what makes this a functional region. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It really does help me out, and it costs $0. I have some free resources for you in the description down below if you'd like to use them. If you have any AP Human Geography related questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below the video or send me a message on Discord. I'll see you guys in the next video, though. Adios.